get started on this interview, I want to remind you that we are sponsored by our good friends in StreamYard for the most professional live streams ever. Go to the special link in the description section, sign up for a paid StreamYard plan, get a 14-day free trial with no credit card required to sign up. StreamYard for the most professional live streams ever. As you can see on YouTube, my co-host Austin is on a nice, lovely stroll. Yeah, nice to see you too, buddy. But I digress.
No, I'm not talking about it. I wasn't flipping you off. I was flipping off the geese. Come on, man.
Oh, I was about to say.
God damn.
I was gonna say, what I ever do to you? Well, actually,
You
I've
ain't
done a
done
lot
shit.
of things to you, but I digress there.
Yeah, you have done a lot to me, but not as of late.
I digress. Anyway, we got a very, very special conversation today. We got two very good friends of mine who have their own podcast called Two Dudes, One Double Feature, which you can find on all audio platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts. My good friends Joey DeAngelis and Richard Purnell. Gentlemen, how the heck are we doing? It's nice to chat with you.
It's pretty good so far. I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying the walk.
You know what? I'm going to keep every comment to myself right now.
You better.
I'm sorry. Don't get me wrong. I just met these guys. They seem cool, but goddamn, their podcast sounds like something real wrong.
Oh Lord.
That was the intention.
Think, boy.
Was that the intention?
Listen, in the world of podcasting and media, you got to do what you can. You got to, listen. It's like the old days with movies, like, oh, you're going to be able to see this, and it's like, not really. No,
exactly.
We're just baiting a switch.
It's all suggestive, really.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. It's fantastic.
Exactly. And Joey, it's been too long since I've spoken to you. This man and I went to college together. How have you been, my man?
Fine.
Just fine. All right.
I feel like I've been on a very interesting journey the last few years. I mean, everybody has in the last few years. But I've been doing okay.
Very good.
You know what? I feel bad for him.
Why?
Because he had to meet Jimmy and Jimmy's awkward phase.
Oh my God. If this is where we're going today, I should just walk off the set right now.
I'm waiting for it. That's my point here, Chris. I'm going to make you walk off the set, and then I'm going to dip.
Do you see what my co-host does to me? Do you see this?
Listen. I think it's mutual. Richard and I are playing nice right now.
I'm feeling a lot of similarities here.
It's a parallel universe.
See, Finizzi, I told you. With a co-host, you're supposed to go after each other's throats. It's just how it is.
I hate all of you. But anyway, let's get to the crux of things right here. Obviously, you guys have your own podcast where you talk about movies, and that's pretty much it. That's the summary of your podcast. You talk about two movies, so I want to ask you, who came up with the idea, and why Two Dudes, One Double Feature?
That was Joey.
It was Joey's idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I did this all to myself, basically.
Yeah, I did nothing. I just sat there. I said, okay.
Here's the thing. Richard and I have known each other for quite a while now.
Almost 10 years.
Almost a decade.
This year it might be 10 years we've known each other that long.
Probably this year. Yeah. So anyway, but we met through our friend Andrew Gifford, who ran I don't know if you guys remember, there was a huge Marvel page back in the day. 2 million likes. It was like the Marvel page.
I do remember that.
We were also both like DC admins on the DC page, or at one point or another, and we became friends through that, and then that developed into the wacko relationship that we have now. And
yes,
neither one of us has been sane since, but we have wanted to.
It works out in a way. It's a good thing ultimately. But we're a little bit crazier.
Ultimately,
all said and done.
But for a while, we wanted to start a podcast because we thought we had something to say. And trouble is, we for a very long time we didn't know what exactly that was going to materialize into, whether that's going to be what kind of show that was going to be.
Or who was going to be involved, because we had other friends as well that were going to do it. But we all had a lot of clashing ideas, a lot of different approaches as well. I know there was one time Joey wanted to be a fake alien character in one.
Yeah,
but
you know Alf.
Creative.
It's like Alf, but if Alf had a podcast, and you have to treat the character as, because the creator of Alf, Paul Fusco, you cannot call Alf a puppet. You have to refer to Alf as an alien.
Yes.
So
yes.
So it would have been that. I would have been Joe Dinny Dan from the planet Twismo, and he would have had his own Instagram page. It was going to be a weird idea, but obviously 2020 happened. I don't think I need to elaborate what happened in 2020. Kids, if you're listening to this in the future, ask your parents. And
yeah.
So obviously we were at home. We're stuck. We're like, shoot, what are we going to do? And I had a notepad. I still have this notepad somewhere, but it's a notepad of just different ideas, and because you got to have some kind of gimmick, right? You can't just talk about movies. Right. You have to do something a little different, right? And not that our approach is entirely original, but at least it's like you get a clear distinction of what the show 9 times out of 10 usually is. So I go, yeah. And this is where I really kick myself, because we talk about at least 2 movies each episode. That's hard. But I'm like, what if we did a double feature? And we're trying to figure out a good title. We had Double Bill and a lot of these like weird titles, and we're like, 2 dudes, 1 double feature. Slightly suggestive, but it's okay. It describes
it rolled off the tongue, not to make it more suggestive, but
it rolls off the tongue. I will say it rolls off very nicely.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. And listen, our early journey, don't listen to our first 2 episodes at all, because they are I mean, like, we reference like the fact that when Richard introduces the show, he introduces.
I messed up the title.
2 Dudes, 1 Podcast, which I think should be a T-shirt. If we ever made merch, 2 Dudes, 1 Podcast. Oh my god! And it took me a long time because I hadn't done much audio, because Jimmy and I went to school for communication. I focused more on the radio end of things, but I hadn't done much audio work in a long time, and just trying to get the hang of, like, because I used Audacity and trying to you do the audio and all that stuff. So it took a second. I feel like, at least as far as the quality of the show, it started to look up at our 3rd episode. So that's to me the Superman Batman episode is our first true episode. Like the other first 2 are like, they're nice, like little like time capsule pieces of what the show was like.
Prototypes
for the show. Like test of concept, if you will. But also one of the big advantages of our show was our good friends John and Kenny Armstrong, who I know Richard, we cannot sing their praises enough.
Oh yeah,
they are the geniuses behind our theme music, and for a very long time we had different theme music each week that would be tailored to whatever movie we were talking about.
And that was their idea, because initially we were like, maybe just a theme song would be nice, which we have now. We for all of our recent stuff, we have the theme song from them, which is perfect. Yeah. But they were like, no, why don't we just make a track for every episode? And it was like, if you want, it's, and they, every week they had a new one out, and then it just got crazier from there. We did radio dramas at one point for Halloween. We did songs, like all kinds of stuff, and we still kind of do that, honestly. They almost have their own kind of built-in world and lore of like the weird characters they came up with. We have that whole other like kind of side aspect of our show, which is a lot of fun. And then they also John is an incredible illustrator, and he drew our logos. Not the first one, that was me. It was terrible.
That was actually going to be
the second
next
2,
question.
which are really good.
Me right to the punch, because that art style is fantastic. Because I know that art style is obviously featured on YouTube, being old movie buffs. So I really like the old cartoon type of style. Yeah, there it is. If you're not watching on YouTube, that's the art style for their podcast. It's a really cool sticker right there. I really, really like that artwork.
And then we had we had an updated version of us looking very fancy. Makes you think of when like Bugs and Daffy were dancing on stage,
which is very accurate.
Yeah, I would say
Austin,
so.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Joey. Austin, you were going to say something about that?
Yeah, I was going to say, shit, Jimmy, they got us beat. Come the fuck on, man.
Hey, I can't help myself, man. Nobody wants to reach out.
Well,
maybe they won't reach out. You got to do it.
Anyway, Joey, please continue. I apologize.
In fairness, we got extremely lucky in that department. They are.
Oh yeah.
John and Kenny are, and they also provide voices in some of these specials. Like some of the voices that John does are Kenny. Oh my, Kenny! I got to give a big shout out to Kenny. He might be one of the most talented people I've ever come across in my life.
Incredible
writer, music, great voice talent.
Some of the some of the funniest dialogue I think we've ever said for anything just came from Kenny's brain. He's so good.
Oh, jeez.
But I think, but yeah, with our show, I think one of our favorite things about it is we get to learn more about each other on that show. Because even though we've known each other for a very long time, you learn a lot about somebody you like through the movies they like, right? Because I think it says a lot about them. And I got to rediscover stuff like Scream, which I'd seen once on TV. And I was glad it was one of our Wes Craven episode. And that was really cool to be able to watch that, something Richard really enjoyed. And then whenever I just show Richard anything with apes, anything
there's a theme. There's a theme. You'll find various themes through different episodes, like apes. I grew up a huge Batman fan, so that comes into play quite a bit. And I think I 100% agree with what he just said too, because the one thing, we're on the surface you could look at us and say, oh, you guys are into this and this, but then you really dig into it, Joey on the surface, he loves TCM, he loves old classic Hollywood, Maltese Falcon, Singing in the Rain, stuff like that, but then you really dig deep. And then you find he loves the movie Schlock. He loves the movie. Just wait for it. Just wait.
Oh
for it.
No!
Here it comes.
Sorry, guys. I absolutely had to pick this one up, folks.
Oh boy!
Listen, the movie Schlock. Which Jimmy, have you ever seen American Werewolf in London or the Blues Brothers?
Oh
wait, what's that?
Blues Brothers. Have you ever seen Blues Brothers or American Werewolf?
Oh,
in London.
Of course. Who hasn't?
Yeah.
This is John Landis's. He's the director. His first movie.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
I love the tagline on this because it's so honest. Due to the horrifying nature of this picture, absolutely no one will be admitted. It's John Landis in a gorilla suit made by makeup artist Rick Baker, and he's just doing shit. He's
literally just going to people's backyards and poking them.
And other things that we'll not mention either.
Whoa!
I see how it's gonna be.
It's very fitting for our podcast. No.
Again, it's all suggestive.
But we have a fun double feature planned with that. At some point. And
that's the true dudes episode is what I like to call it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That is indeed fantastic. We're talking to Joey DeAngelis and Richard Purnell, the hosts of the Two Dudes, One Double Feature podcast here on The Bottom Line. You guys mentioned your movie buffs, so let's talk about movies, shall we? So, Joey, I want to start with you first, since you are the old movie buff here, because I know you grew up with guys from the 1920s with Buster Keaton and all those guys.
Sure.
So, I know King Kong, you've told me personally, is one of your biggest inspirations ever because of your father. Can you elaborate a little more on that for my audience who may not know about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when I was very young, my father passed away. I was 6, and so I have vague memories of him, so I didn't get to know him that well. So
sorry to hear that.
But what he left behind was a lot of VHS tapes. So a lot of stuff like the Die Hard movies, Indiana Jones. Well, many of these tapes I still have. The Universal Monsters. Okay, I think there's something to be said about that. With physical media, it's something I know my dad held, and I can hold. And if I ever have kids, they can see how this is something that means a lot to somebody. It's not like today with streaming, where streaming is convenient, but it's also there's a cold detachment with that as well, because there's no real ownership. But one of the tapes that I discovered was King Kong, and it's such a striking cover where it's just King Kong holding this woman who I thought was dead on the poster. She's not. Right. It's just she's just passed out. But it was a cool tape too, because you could press it. The tape roared, and I remember, and I watched it because I'm because I knew it had influenced Jurassic Park, which is another one of my favorite movies. And I remember watching it, and I thought it was scary. I'm also a wimp, but I thought it's a really scary movie, honestly, if you're not prepared for it. And that was really like, other than like Disney movies or like The Wizard of Oz, that was really the first like classic movie I had ever seen. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was just so remarkable that a movie from the 30s could do all the things that it does. It has a fully realized sound effects. You know, like before that point, there were silent movies with dinosaurs, like The Lost World, but you never heard what a dinosaur sounded like, or a giant gorilla. What would that even sound like? How do you even go about doing that? Or obviously the stop motion animation, which is it's just so remarkable. And I think that's part of what makes Kong so scary, is that it's that crudeness. It's 24 frames per second, one frame at a time. It's just there's like this weird, like almost alchemy of this thing coming to life, you know? And and Kong had a soul in that movie. Kong was violent. Kong did all the cool stuff, like throw people off a log. He broke the jaw of a T-Rex, but also Kong had a soul. Like I think about just all like the scenes where Kong is in pain and just realizes he's bleeding and stuff like that. That's what really hooks you on the movie, and you feel so bad by the end. It's a movie I've seen probably over 100 times at this point. I own it on basically I own a VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, Blu-ray. It was one of the first movies I purchased digitally on like iTunes or whatever. Okay. So, you know, and I just think too, like learning about the behind the scenes of that movie as well, like all the hard work that went into something, like especially at that time too, where like monster movies back then were like, okay, you have a guy maybe in a makeup thing, and it'll be really cool. But this was like a hugely technologically groundbreaking thing from a studio, RKO, from a studio that's infamous for, you know, not being as high up as like MGM, Warner Brothers, you know, and they also made Citizen Kane too, which is another like technically impressive movie. So I think it's just all these things, like the childhood nostalgia of it, just the appreciation of the techniques. I think the efficiency. The movie's 100 minutes, guys. Like I go see like a new movie and it's like 2 hours 15 minutes, and I'm like, okay, all right. King Kong is one of the few movies in existence that truly. I'm going on for a while. King Kong delivers the goods, guys. That's all I'm saying. You know,
I 100% agree with you.
I want to see a movie where the gorilla like bites a person and throws them, and like the violence and the music and the excitement, and it delivers.
It's cinema.
That's cinema. Yeah. It's literally the magic. It's the magic of the movies. But yeah, that's really what it comes down. I think all those factors wrapped up. It just makes, and two, we live close. You know, we live close to New York City. Right. So having the Empire State Building so close was also kind of a cool thing too, and that's probably the most famous use of the Empire State Building ever was King Kong. So
they have a whole floor, right, with King Kong.
They have a King.
Like there's like a whole floor dedicated. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. No, there is absolutely. I'm pretty sure Austin got tired of the conversation, so he just abruptly left. No, seriously, Austin did have somewhere to be, so I do thank him for hopping on for even at least a little bit. That's okay.
It was nice to meet him.
Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure you guys will like him a lot more once you. Of course, you're always welcome to come back anytime, as I like to say to any other guest. So,
ditto.
This won't be the last time you see him. But I digress there. But no, Joey, I'm with you on King Kong, and I know obviously you grew up on other guys like Douglas Fairbanks Sr., the big guy Charles Chaplin. So you grew up in an era where silent movies are really, how do I say it? They're not really talked about as much today as I would like them to be. So, in my personal opinion, I feel like those kind of movies should be revisited so they would have a little bit more of an appreciation just to show like how movies evolved from the 20s up until today's era. I really think people should start to appreciate that more.
I agree, and I think one of the big things too is, I know Richard agrees with movies are a visual medium, right? And I know Richard has a huge appreciation for movies that tell their stories visually, and that's why I want to get more silent films. We've talked about a couple. We have like the Phantom of the Opera. We talked about Chaplin's The Gold Rush. I know we there's other ones we want to talk. Metropolis is one that Richard and I both bonded over.
We did do a special presentation on Nosferatu as well.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that was a lot of fun.
Nosferatu by itself, and I think there's so much to learn from this. Like I think about Buster Keaton like I was seeing somebody like post about it, like that movie's 45 minutes, and it's packed with so many great visual ideas, visual gags. There's so much to be like. It's so beautiful, like just like a gesture or something can be so impactful. Whereas today, there's some movies today that feel like they're radio dramas with visual components. Which, listen, that's fine. I love the Marx Brothers. They're like, da, 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 da. You see this guy? He looks like an idiot, and he sounds like an idiot. Don't let that fool you. He really is an idiot. And I love that stuff. But it's also nice, too, when you have, like I think, going back to monster movies, like The Phantom of the Opera, when Lon Chaney, like, the anguish that he feels after Christine sees his face for the first time. And, like, you can't... And I was thinking about, was it Dune, the Dune trailer? How a lot of that trailer is just so visual, like the way they use the
first Dune movie colors. Or the second Dune movie?
Talking about the second Dune trailer,
the second one, okay.
The new Dune trailer from the new second one,
okay.
And the different contrasts and like different styles, like some shots are like black and white, some of them are like super orange, and I think again, I think we could benefit from just looking at those silent films and looking at all that stuff and just how they tell a story. With visuals, but there are definitely silent films that use too many title cards, and that happens. But again, I think a movie everybody should watch is what is it? The Last Laugh, which is made by F.W. Murnau of Nosferatu fame, and that film is incredible because that is one title card. The whole rest, it's like a 90-minute. I think it's like a 90-minute movie. The whole rest of it is told visually. It is that's a movie I need to upgrade on Blu-ray at some point, but it's fantastic. Anyway.
No, that's very interesting point. I actually have seen Last Laugh. I find it to be very visually entertaining. It definitely tells a great story. But that's the thing. You don't have to fully understand what the story is in a silent movie just by word. I know some silent movies use title cards, and that's fine. But when you have something like Last Laugh that just tells you the story visually and you're able to figure it out like this, that's the appreciation of a silent movie. I feel like there needs to be more of that.
Yeah. I think too, and the great thing is there are silent films that you can watch for free on YouTube.
Right.
And like there's on some streaming services. So, like I know Criterion's got a lot of the Chaplin catalog. And there's also you can find, if you seek it out, it is there.
Right.
But sometimes there's, and I look, I'm guilty of this too. There's a lack of curiosity sometimes. And it's like, you just want to default to this. And listen, especially with what happened in 2020, again, kids, ask your parents. You just default into like watching Seinfeld episodes or just watching King Kong for like the 30th time this week. Or, I get it. And I know Richard gets it. We all get it, right? But I think it's also, I've been making a list on Letterboxd, of the movies I had never seen before in 2023. And to me, that was a really important thing, just to like keep track of like, wow, these are new experiences that I'm having, and I think seeing new things, it makes you appreciate the things you already like, but also it really sharpens your tastes as well. And you're able to more like eloquently say like why you don't like something or why you do like something even. So I think I always encourage people, check out something. Like what did I watch? I watched Ingrid Goes West couple months ago, earlier this year, and I thought that was a really interesting movie that I was curious about, but I hadn't seen, and it was available on streaming, so I'm like, I'll check it out.
Very, very fascinating stuff. We're talking to Joey DeAngelis and Richard Purnell, two hosts of the Two Dudes, one double feature podcast here on The Bottom Line. Richard, I never asked you this yet, but I'll ask you now. What's the movie that got you into starting to like movies? Is the best I can ask that question. What's your movie inspiration is what I meant to ask. I'm sorry.
Well, when I was younger, I didn't really go out much. I still don't, admittedly. I'm very much a homebody, but I was kind of a sheltered kid. And so a lot of my passing of the time was watching movies. So I would watch anything that like my babysitter would show me or anything my parents had. And my parents just watched whatever they had. So it's like no filter. Like I still remember when I was 5 years old and they were watching Pulp Fiction. And I don't like needles to this day. To this very day. Like I think of that shot with John Travolta holding the adrenaline and I'm like,
yes.
Nope. No, thank you. No, thank you. I'm good. Thank you.
Pulp Fiction is a classic though.
It's a classic, but not for a 5-year-old.
Right. No, I totally get it.
I don't think I could see a Tarantino movie in the Disney sing-along tape.
Could you imagine, though, just the little bouncing ball?
Oh my god. That would be the most hysterical. Can we crowdfund that?
Let's make it happen. Listen, he's got one more movie in his repertoire he wants to do. Let's make it happen.
What is it? The movie critic make it a musical and have like the Disney bouncing ball.
Oh my god. But anyway, Richard, please continue. I apologize.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So a lot of the movies that I gravitated towards, like I mentioned Batman earlier, I watched Batman '89, Michael Keaton one.
Okay.
And it was really like one of those movies, like a lot of movies, obviously we get so many superhero movies and so many big like blockbuster movies these days. And it was really kind of like the prototype that a lot of those movies would sort of base themselves off of. Like, we're not really telling like a in-depth story. We're just kind of showing you this world. Mm-hmm. And so just like seeing something that seemed so unreal come to life, like you would never see a city look like that, or you'd never see characters look like this, these like outlandish, colorful characters. That kind of is what got me going, and it made me want to watch more movies like that. And it kind of was like, you know, obviously you can look back on it and like it was really an escape, because I didn't know what was going out there, so I was too afraid. So I'm like, I'm in here and I'm gonna just watch these movies. And so in many ways it really shaped the kind of movies that I like, are these sort of outlandishly visual experiences in many respects. Like one movie Joey and I like to talk about a lot is Pacific Rim. You know, it's this big, crazy, colorful experience that we don't really get a whole lot necessarily, like for what it is. And it's such a fun movie, but it's got a really good heart to it as well. But like, I remember when I was getting older and I was like 14, 15, 16, like I would start reading comics, and that's kind of where I got into like superheroes and stuff. And I remember I was like really wanting to actually start watching a lot of these movies that inspired movies that I love, like Metropolis being a big one, an inspiration for, you know, obviously like the name Metropolis is in Superman, and the way the city looks, the Anton Furst, Oscar-winning Anton Furst designed Gotham City looks in Batman, that was very based off of the German Expressionism and what Fritz Lang did with Metropolis. And watching that for the first time was really like, how did they do this at this point in time? Like it just blew my mind how beautiful it was, but also like how profound it was and how in depth it was for being this. And that was really like one of the biggest silent film experience I'd had as well. Like, it's a weird way to start with that one, because then you watch all the other ones and they all feel so different. But like when you have that sort of like Chaplin understanding of what a silent film is, but then you watch Metropolis, you're like, wait, hold on, what? Excuse me.
Yeah.
What do you mean you could like they did this? That's insane. And it's such an amazing movie. But I think that's sort of where my sensibilities lie, is like I love movies that really go for it and really just have no shame and just will throw as much color on the screen as possible, no shame, no whatsoever. Like they just want to be what they want to be, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? I think I have a lot of respect for movies like that, even the ones that are just like, we're going to be really silly and not care one bit about it because we're having a good time. And you just feel like movies are just so aware of themselves as movies. And it's like, sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. But I just like when movies are like, let's just show them stuff that they have never seen before. Let's go crazy with it. And so I think that's sort of where I like, where my brain exists when it comes to kind of movies that I like.
You know, you're 100% right. I totally agree with you on that, Richard. But I actually want to, speaking of movies that do not care, I want to get into the conversation that pretty much everybody loves to discuss, and that's remakes. More specifically with Disney, because I've done a discussion video on Bottom Line about Disney remakes, and I also have done a couple of movie trailer reactions. More recently, I did Fast X, which unfortunately I am going to see for this podcast. Please pray for my sanity. And I'm also going to see the Little Mermaid remake, which I also did a trailer reaction to. If you haven't seen those, by the way, I'll leave links down below in the description section. Go check them out. But point being is this. Disney needs to start caring. Because from my point of view, they got lazy, man. I mean, look, I'm a huge Disney buff. Anybody who knows me knows I love Disney. Lion King is the movie that got me into Disney. I will forever love that movie, and I hated that remake. Hated it. It looked gorgeous. It did. It looked gorgeous. But that was the only good thing. Oh, no, I'm sorry. James Earl Jones was also in it. Those are the only two good things about that movie. That was it. At least in my opinion. But that's beside the point. Disney, in my opinion, got lazy. Now, look. Does this Little Mermaid remake have potential? In my personal opinion, I said it in my reaction. I think it does. But I also still think it's another cash grab and another remake that is not necessary to do. Visually, once again, it looks nice, but it is literally a shot-for-shot retell of the original 1989 movie. And if you don't believe me, watch both trailers side by side and tell me I'm wrong. What say you two on this?
I can't entirely disagree with that, honestly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. It's like, I will say there's aspects of some of these movies, and even some of the movies themselves I have liked, but at the same time, there's no reason for it. Like, a lot of it just feels like nostalgia, and they're just like, oh, people are going... We miss the old days, and instead of just going, hey, look, we got this like great movie you can watch on Disney Plus, or you can get on disc, but they're like, why don't we remake it for a new audience? But with like maybe a couple of changes here and there, so it's not as dated.
Or here's an idea: watch the original movie.
Here's one thing I will say, and I've thought about this a lot. Did you know a lot of the earlier Disney movies, when they were initially released, were not that financially successful? Stuff like Pinocchio, Bambi, Fantasia. There are a number of those movies that were because of World War II or whatever, but they became some of the most successful movies of all time because Disney re-released them year after year after year, and they were very lucrative, successful re-releases.
Wasn't Snow White in that conversation too? Because everybody thought that film would flop when Disney first released it.
It was successful in its initial release, so that's what makes it unique in that in the first 5 films, like which is the Golden Age, which we do have an episode about.
Right,
we do.
Great episode, but like Snow White was very successful, but a number of the other ones weren't that successful. So the re-releases helped Disney stay afloat, but also make those movies tremendously successful after their initial releases. And that was before home video. Now, obviously, these movies, we have them on home video. We have them on Disney Plus.
We have access.
We have access. We have easier access than ever before. So what does Disney do? Well, listen, we're going to remake it because that's going to fill sort of the same position. You know what? You can't blame them because it's worked almost every time. Because... I know Alice in Wonderland technically isn't a remake, but it's part of that pantheon. It made $1 billion. Beauty and the Beast made $1 billion. Lion King made Avengers level money. All right. The Jungle Book made more money than Batman v Superman. All right. The DC fans are going to come after me for this, but can you imagine this? A movie with Superman and Batman made less money than the movie with Bill Murray as a talking bear. Wow, that is astonishing. And the movie almost made $1 billion. Cinderella made like $500 million. Pete's Dragon did well relative to its budget. All right, it was basically a Disney indie movie almost by their standards.
Disney does A24.
Disney does A24, right?
Yeah,
baby's first A24, right? But listen, like these movies. And Aladdin is the most miraculous movie to make $1 billion. Yep. Everyone's like, it opened to $80 million. This got into controversy on Twitter, which maybe we'll talk about after the show. But like, it's like made $80 million opening weekend. Oh, this is gonna flop. Makes $1 billion.
Yep.
People can listen. With us, we see it. Because we're media literate on some level.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Austin's media literate too on some
Yes.
level, you know. But a lot of average person's like, listen, I know I like Lion King. I'm gonna go see Lion King again.
I hear the title, and I'm ready to go.
I packed my bags, got my popcorn. Let's go. Because listen, most people, a lot of people only see maybe 3 movies in a year. Because going to the movies is expensive, right? And you want to have like the best sure thing that you know is going to be the movie you're going to like. Because nobody likes spending money and then being disappointed with the movie. See Rise of Skywalker. All right.
Oh, yeah.
But ultimately, I mean, I think some of these remakes are pretty solid. I think Jungle Book is a great remake. Pete's Dragon is a great remake. Cinderella's got some cool things.
We did talk about Pete's Dragon on our show, actually.
We did.
Yeah.
I did hear that one.
But I think with Little Mermaid, I'm very excited. Who's the actor who plays the actress who plays
is that Halle Bailey?
Halle Bailey, yeah.
Halle Bailey.
Halle Bailey.
Fantastic.
And I 100% agree.
Yeah. All the promotional stuff, like that she's like interacting with kids. She's a Disney princess. To all the people who have an issue with her playing this part, you really need to reevaluate how you're using your time on this planet.
Yes.
Like,
exactly.
Are you going to complain? I don't like this person.
Literally, that was the main thing. When I did that discussion video, people were telling me, "Oh, the reason why is because it's not Jodie Benson." I'm like, okay, listen, you can't replace Jodie Benson. Don't get me wrong, she's fantastic. But even still, if you have a problem with Halle Bailey, don't watch the movie. I think she's gonna be fine.
There's that too, but also it's like if you're that concerned, like, man, I wish I had the amount of time you did. That was worried
exactly
the integrity of my mermaid movie. Oh. But I'm also excited too because of I don't know if I'm going to see it in the theater, but I'm also because Lin-Manuel Miranda is also involved.
Yes,
and Joey's a big Lin-Manuel Miranda guy.
I got Hamilton on vinyl somewhere.
When Hamilton came out on Disney Plus, Joey for like a month couldn't talk about anything else. Like when Disney Plus came out, he was like, "Now I have more than one thing to watch on this. It was Mandalorian, then that was it. Now it's Mandalorian and Hamilton."
Literally, that was the same with my sister. She's a huge Hamilton buff.
But yeah, I mean, look, like these remakes, it's dastardly, like diabolically ingenious because a lot of them make money. They do. They make money, and I think Little Mermaid. Listen, everyone's like, because I think some of the underwater stuff, some of it looks good, some of it looks kind of shoddy, but it's hard to because after seeing like the second Avatar movie, anything that's underwater pales in comparison.
Sebastian still looks like a goddamn seafood platter, though. I don't know what the hell they did to him. But
Flounder is the funniest
one. Atrocity what they did to my boy Sebastian. Scuttle looks fine, but Sebastian, oh my god, what are you doing?
Flounder is just a fish.
Just a fish, nothing.
Which yes,
literally though.
Nothing.
Flounder is, and now it's gonna be even funnier if they do the scene with the chef.
Oh my!
It's just like real. That's gonna be horrifying.
That's by far that's probably my biggest take. Like the thing that pushes me out of like a lot of these remakes is just that there's some things you can do in animation that you just cannot do in live action.
Right. Yeah.
Like we have a Pinocchio episode coming up that we have some guest hosts for, and one of those Pinocchios is the one that came out in Disney Plus last year.
God.
And
that was so trash.
it's absolutely terrible, and I felt bad that we had them do it, but they had fun talking about it. So
when Guillermo del Toro does a better Pinocchio, you know you have a problem. That's just my opinion, though. But go ahead.
So I just remember watching it and thinking back to the original and just how much that movie relies on the fact that it's an animated movie with some of the insane, amazing stuff that they just go full tilt with that one. And then you watch this new one and it's just like, it feels so watered down and it feels so lifeless. Yes. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like looking at like as beautiful as those live action animal digital creations in Lion King are, there's just something weird about watching an actual lion go, no! Long live the king.
But that's why I like Jungle Book though. Jungle Book, because like they're realistic animals, but they're able to have like some like emotion. Like with Baloo in that movie, it at least like feels like a character.
Right.
Whereas you look at Lion King, and I'm just like, I
might had Mowgli to bounce off of too.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's true too. But like, you watch Lion King, and you go, I might as well just be watching Nat Geo, but playing like the Lion King. Like, I'll listen to like the rhythm of the Pride Lands, and just listen to that as I'm watching like lions just sit around. Basically,
I'm with you.
But I also say to Richard sometimes too, a good movie can come from anywhere.
Yes, this is true.
Like, think about Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I was excited for that movie because I'm a Planet of the Apes fan. Most people I knew weren't, because the last Planet of the Apes stunk. All right? This is the Tim Burton directed one. It has good elements. We talked about that one, but, it stunk for most people. But then that movie ended up being a surprise. And I think, like, hey, remakes and reboots, there can be good stuff out there. I think, like, 2017 especially, 2017 had some of the best, like, sequels and, like, franchise movies we've ever had. Blade Runner 2049. Yes. Amazing that a studio allowed that to happen. Wow. Just insane. The third Planet of the Apes movie, which for a PG-13 movie is pretty brutal.
You're talking about
heartbreaking.
Planet of the Apes, right?
What's that?
You're talking about
War for the Planet.
War was in 2017.
Planet of the Apes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was my first date movie with my girlfriend. Was War for the Planet of the Apes.
That's so Joey.
It's because we're meeting in Disneyland. I'll tell a slight story. Sorry to derailing what.
No. Please go ahead.
So it was our first big date thing. We went to Disneyland, and that was the week Planet of the Apes had come out. And this was ridiculous demand, and not a demand that I made, but it was basically a demand where I'm just like, we need to see this movie. I cannot afford to not see this movie while we are. And so we went to the AMC that was on the now defunct AMC and Downtown Disney in Disneyland.
Okay.
There's shut down completely, but you saw that movie and it was like just like sobbing and just all the upsetting things that happen in that movie, man. But point being, like, the Planet of the Apes movies are a great example of, like, this isn't just this could have just been slop that could have been just put out in theaters and we just forget about it. No, they decided we are going to take this story, and nobody intends to make a bad movie either. But I don't want to, like, put these people off as just like, oh, you're just a hack. But, like, there is the sense there is genuine care about where the story was going with Caesar, his character progression in each movie, and all the characters, and obviously the tech in each movie got better and better and better.
Right.
It wasn't, and they
Mm-hmm.
they really consciously thought of that. So I guess that's my thing is, like, if they had an interesting angle about it and visually try to do something interesting, that'd be one thing. But sometimes a lot of them just feel like, what if we did this but real? And for some people, or a lot of people, that's good enough. I mean, Beauty and the Beast made $1 billion, guys. But also,
and the crazy thing too is a lot of these movies have people who've made incredible movies attached to them.
Right.
Like Jon Favreau, Robert Zemeckis. Obviously with he made Back to the Future, it was an iconic movie. I'm a big David Lowery fan, who did like Green Knight and A Ghost Story. He's done 2 of them. So, like, they get good people to make these movies. It's just clearly there's a certain direction that Disney wants these movies to go. And it almost feels like Little Mermaid is going to be like the first big one to come out in a long time, because a lot of them have just been released on Disney Plus.
Literally, I will guarantee you this: The Little Mermaid is going to cross $1 billion. You can book it. People
I think so.
will go see it, regardless of what they think of the lead actress.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That movie's gonna make big bucks.
But also too, there's not many.
And if it does not make $1 billion, I will come on these airwaves and apologize publicly. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, all the box office bookies are relying on Jimmy's box office, which is pretty good intel. Because I agree with you, it's probably going to make $1 billion. Because also, guess what, guys? There's not that many kids, like strictly like kids movies that come out in theaters these days.
The last one that came out was Super Mario, and look what happened with that.
That's why I made
it. Also $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I have seen that twice because I'm a nerd, but I really look, that movie is no masterpiece by any stretch. But my God, it's a blast.
It's a lot of fun. I think I called it, like, my letterbox. I called it like pop culture cotton candy. It's not much substance there, but listen, like, it's 90 minutes and you're in and you're out, and it's like, listen, if you were 8 years old, it's the greatest movie ever made.
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I think there's something.
But if you're 29-year-old nerds like us, well, look, it's still no masterpiece, but even still, no matter what age you are, you're gonna have a fun ass time with that movie, and I sure as hell did twice in a row. Now, I do want to get into a bit of a discussion on video game movies before we wrap things up here, because speaking of which, you mentioned the Mario movie earlier, we brought it up. It crossed $1 billion, which makes it Illumination's highest grossing movie next to the Minions. God bless their souls. I can't believe it, but even still. And then you have the Sonic movies, which also surprisingly did very well for themselves. Because, look, you know this, Joey. I grew up with Sonic. That was the first video game I ever played next to Mario Kart. So I grew up with Mario and Sonic. So, look, did I have any high expectations for any of these movies? No. But was I excited? You bet your ass I was. When I walked into that first Sonic movie, I said, look, I'm cautiously optimistic about this. How are they going to make this work? They actually listened to the fans and redesigned Sonic. I don't want to talk about that right now, but God, it was ugly as hell. I'm just happy they brought him back in the, they brought back the ugly Sonic in the new,
Chip 'n Dale.
The Chip 'n Dale remake, which, by the way, is kind of underrated in my opinion. I thought that was a pretty decent remake. I don't know. That's just me, but I'm just happy they brought Ugly Sonic back. But that's just beside the point. Look,
Ugly Sonic was a highlight for sure.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
But look, my point is this. With the Sonic movies and the Mario movie that came out recently, I feel like it's giving video game movies kind of a new life because nobody really thought that they would do this well. You know, because obviously their target audience is kids. Obviously, you're going to expect that. But if you're a hardcore Sonic or Mario fan like I am, look, you're probably not going to have that many expectations. And once you see it, you're like, that's no masterpiece. But you know what? That exceeded my expectations. I had a fun time with this movie. It's not the greatest movie I've ever seen. But as far as video game movies go, it was really damn good. So I really feel like if we get more video game movies like those, they just might have more potential here. Because you look at god-awful video game movies like freaking Silent Hill Revelations, which was probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. But look, even still, I just feel like these movies are bringing video game genres to not a brand new life, but they're breathing some sort of life into them.
Yeah, like I think it is sort of crazy because we actually did an episode on video game movies where we paired, what was it, Rampage and the first Sonic movie.
Oh, yes.
There's the Rampage poster behind Joey there.
One of my beautiful.
If you're not watching on YouTube, that was the Rampage poster.
Very, very lovely poster, but and very on brand as well. So like, it is kind of wild because I just like I keep thinking like all these video game movies that came out when I was younger and when we were younger, and just none of them, because it's such a different medium. So you can make that argument as well, because like video games are a very specific medium, and so to translate that to film could be a little bit difficult and make it work. But these days, I was also a big Sonic fan. I would remember like the first video games that I would play consistently were like Sonic 3 and Sonic 2, and I had the little the Knuckles expansion cartridge, which is I didn't know what that was for when I was a kid, but I'm like, I want Knuckles. That's what that's for, I guess. So I'm gonna go with it. And I remember I actually watched Sonic 2 not long ago, and wow, like again, not a masterpiece, but
me personally, I think it's better than Sonic 1.
It's so much better. It's so much better, and Idris Elba as Knuckles is incredible. It's so good. Man. And then also too, like going back to like kind of the 90s sort of nostalgia feeling of it. Like if you'd have told me as a young kid that Jim Carrey and Sonic were in a movie together, sold.
Yes.
It feels like a movie that should have happened already, which is so weird.
100%.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
100%.
Like where was this when I was? Well, I'm glad I got it as an adult, but it would have been nice maybe when I was younger. And Jim Carrey still had it; he was still going, and he was even better in the second one as Eggman.
I really hope he comes back for Sonic 3. If he doesn't, I'm going to be very disappointed.
And he had a whole sequel thing for his whole career too. Like he didn't like doing sequels, and now he did Sonic 2, and
exactly.
It's like, so I'm hopeful. Fingers crossed. Honestly,
we'll see.
But I also think, going off of video game things, I know this is not a movie, but I think about The Last of Us TV.
Yeah,
did you
Last
watch
of Us?
Jimmy? You watched Last of Us?
I have. Yes, I have.
Yeah. So like literally, like, it's prestige television.
Yes.
So I think we're beyond the point of like, because people keep saying this is the first good video game adaptation. I'm like, no. Rampage was a good video game adaptation.
I was gonna
say. Listen, like, you might go, ugh, Rampage. But listen, Rampage, it's got the monsters, it smashes things, you go home generally satisfied.
Yep.
What do you do when you play Rampage? You smash buildings with monsters, and you stay home satisfied.
Yep.
Like, it's a great translation of the game with some good moments that have some heart. Jeffrey D. Morgan's having a good time chewing scenery.
I love that Dwayne Johnson's mindset is no. If the monsters are destroying stuff, I'm in there too. It's great.
Yes.
It's great.
One of my favorite rock movies. But like, and again, like Detective Pikachu, which I don't think we even brought up.
Yeah, Detective Pikachu. The fact I keep bringing up every time I watch it, I'm like, I love the fact that was shot on film to make it look more like an old film noir.
Absolutely.
And it looks so good. It makes the effects look even better. It's kind of insane how well made that movie is, honestly.
Yeah.
The freaking Davy Jones as Mewtwo. It's fantastic.
Yes.
So I think we're at a point now where, not that every video game movie is going to be great, but I think we can have I think we can have higher standards. I think where we're like, okay, this worked. Now we can like start saying, okay, this is not automatically disaster. Because I remember that was a thing. People were like, oh, new Mortal Kombat, that's going to be the worst thing ever. Now they're making Mortal Kombat 2.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
I'm not looking forward to that.
Well, but it did pretty okay. As far considering it came out during that time period.
True,
folks. Like the Date and Day, that whole thing.
Date. Oh, like HBO Max, good for the consumers, not so good for the studios and everybody.
Also, if you're wondering what HBO Max is by this point, kids, ask your parents.
Ask your parents. If they even knew what it was. Maybe they only know. Their parents are young enough that they only know it as Max.
Pretty much.
Oh no,
that will be super old. Yeah, but video game movies, they're fun. They can be fine.
They're in a good spot right now, honestly. I'm excited. Like, whatever they plan to do. I know there was talk because the new Zelda game just came out.
Oh yeah,
and the creators of that are kind of interested in making a movie of Zelda. I think that could be pretty cool too.
Please, for the love of God, do you know how long they've been begging for a movie about Zelda? They've been begging about that for years.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And now that the Super Mario Brothers movie is doing well, there's probably going to be a sequel. They're definitely going to talk about more Nintendo movies. Make Zelda happen. Seriously, we've waited long enough.
Zelda's make it happen. One that just makes there. So much sense. I think that would do so well.
But the question is, who would play Link?
Me.
That's Joe Denny Dan as a Link.
Hey, I'm Link.
You don't even have to talk. You just run around and break pots.
Exactly.
Well, yes, but I think they're gonna want somebody because they need somebody to go in the late night circuits to be like, hey, I'm Link.
Do you have any lines in this movie? We'll find out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, that's just the taste. That's just the taste of what you can hear from these two gentlemen right here on the Two Dudes, One Double Feature podcast. Go find it wherever you listen to your podcast. Gentlemen, this was such a blast. Thank you guys for joining us, and you are welcome back anytime you want. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. And you're welcome on our show. As well.
Hey, listen, anytime you want me, just name the date and place. I will be there. Thank you so much for the invite.
You got to figure out what movies you what
you got to think of a double feature. Yeah.
Whew, man, you're gonna have to give me some time on that one, but I can definitely let you know.
No rush.
Anyway, thanks, gentlemen. Joey DeAngelis and Richard Purnell, the hosts of the Two Dudes, One Double Feature podcast. Actually, before I let you go, you guys have social media. Where can everybody find you on social media?
Richard's a social media guy. Where can they find us?
I need air quotes on that, by the way. Social media guy. We got an Instagram, we got Twitter, Facebook. I guess that's it. And then as far as where our show is, it's pretty much on every platform at this point, which is kind of wild. And we have a YouTube channel, which we only have 5 videos on there, but we have a YouTube channel And a couple of our songs that we did for the show as well are also on there. So there's nice variety on there, at least at this point.
Jimmy, can we send you the link tree too for our stuff?
Yes.
All right, because that definitely has that has Richard curated all that very nicely.
Yeah, well, you can find their link tree directly on their Instagram page bio at 2 Dudes 1 Double Feature. So be sure you go follow these guys and subscribe to their podcast. Please subscribe. They have really, really tremendous stuff, and you will see your boy on there very, very soon. Gentlemen, once again, thank you very much. Again, you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
Anytime, guys. For Joey D and for Richard Purnell, I'm Jimmy. This is The Bottom Line. Have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, and we'll catch you next time. Peace, and take care.